What's up, guys? By now everybody knows that the files in the Giuffre case have been released partially, and I have already talked about Epstein a lot and the Maxwell arrest. I was hoping that we would get some serious revelations out of this document dump, but the first thing that struck me as odd was that after the release was done, some accounts on Twitter, and of course it started before that on the boards, had almost immediately recognized that some of the redactions had been done improperly. The interesting thing about that is it wasn't all of the redactions, it was just this screenshot of redactions of completely useless information that should have never been redacted in the first place. Which leads me to a question. What impact is this going to have on the case? Why? Well, when Maxwell's attorneys were arguing to have the Giuffre civil suits papers sealed, they used the argument that it could potentially poison the jury pool. Now, they have a specific instance where information that was meant to be withheld from the jury pool was released to the jury pool. They are going to argue that it will be impossible for the jury pool to not be tainted. And then they're going to point to this and ask for a mistrial. So while I'm understanding of the truthers that are excited to find this out, it was only done on this page. And nothing was revealed. Nothing was revealed. So let's follow in line now. The story is they messed up the redactions. That's what everybody's talking about. This is the very same kind of okey doke that they do. They did it with the DNC Podesta emails. Don't look at the content. Pay attention to the circus. We're not going to do that. We're going to look at the content. And we're going to ignore the circus. The redactions that are shown here are completely and utterly meaningless, except that they throw in a case for a potential mistrial. And the whole world celebrated. So what did we learn? Well, Bill Clinton was really on the island. What a revelation. But I mean, there was some stuff to go through in these documents, so we'll just blast through them real quick. Let's go. They're discussing here the photograph of Giuffre with Prince Andrew. And she says that she gave it to the FBI. And when did you give it to the FBI? In 2011, 9 years ago. Let's talk about Sharon Churcher. Because Miss Sharon has been on my radar for a while now. She is the one who brought in the Trump name. Not Virginia Giuffre, Sharon Churcher. Now, it turns out Sharon Churcher misrepresented a lot of what Virginia Giuffre said, but Virginia Giuffre is willing to just let those be gone. You know, you can't take that back. She says essentially, I didn't want to stay mad at her because she already printed it. You can't pull that back. Well, you're damn right. That is a problem. Right here we have what she said. So even if she printed something that were untrue, you didn't ask her to correct it, correct? There was things that she printed that really pissed me off. But there was nothing I could do about it. It was already out there. She printed things that were untrue, correct? I wouldn't say that they were untrue. I would just say she printed them as journalists take your words and turn them into something else. So she got it wrong. Objection to form. In some ways, yes. Is there anything that you recall saying to Sharon Churcher that she then printed something different than what you had said to her? Yeah, I've read stuff. I mean, I can't remember what, but I read something that I think was, oh, she got that wrong. I can't remember an exact example off the top of my head. Did you ever complain to Sharon Churcher about things that she got wrong? I didn't see the point. I might have, but I didn't see the point really because it's already printed, you know? I'll let you read through the statements on the first page there, and if there is anything that is not absolutely true, Just put a check by it and we'll come back to it. Okay, and what else did you put a check by? Donald Trump was also a good friend of Giuffre's. He didn't partake in any sex with any of us, but he flirted with me. He'd laugh and tell Giuffre, "You've got the life." Other than the three you've just mentioned, yeah, everything else on here is absolutely accurate? Yeah, well, to the best of my recollection. All right, what is inaccurate about, quote, "I'd have been about 17 at the time. I flew to the Caribbean with Giuffre, and then Ghislaine Maxwell went to pick up Bill in a huge black helicopter that Giuffre had bought her." Because it makes it kind of sound like an eyewitness thing. Did you say that statement to Sharon Churcher? I said to Sharon that Ghislaine told me that she flew Bill in the heli, the black helicopter that Giuffre bought her, to match the black airplane. And I just wanted to clarify that I didn't actually see her do that. I heard from Ghislaine that she did that. You heard that from Ghislaine, and then you reported to Sharon Churcher that you had heard that from Ghislaine. Correct. I heard a lot of things from Ghislaine that sounded too outrageous to be true, but you never knew what to believe, so... Okay, and after Sharon Churcher printed what she said, you said, did you complain to her that it was inaccurate? I might have verbally with her, but again, I didn't see a point in making a hissy over it because what was done. She had already printed. Does it inaccurately suggest that Bill had the Secret Service with him on a helicopter? Well, not being an eyewitness to it, I wouldn't be able to tell you. I can't tell you what I don't know. And do you believe you said that statement to Sharon Churcher? I mean, Sharon and I talked a lot, and if she misheard me or just wrote it in the way that she thought she should, I have no control over that. So I'm not too sure. Did she record your interviews? Some of them she didn't. I mean, we met for a week and we spent a lot of time together. And then even after that, we just continued kind of a friendship. All right. What's inaccurate about the last statement on that page? Quote, Donald Trump was also a good friend of Giuffre's. That part is true. Quote, he didn't partake in any sex with any of us, but he flirted with me. It's true that he didn't partake in any sex with us. But it's not true that he flirted with me. Donald Trump never flirted with me. Then the next sentence is, he'd laugh and tell Giuffre, "You've got the life." I never said that to her. When you say he didn't partake in any sex with any of us, who is us? Girls. Just, how do you know who Donald Trump had sex with? Oh, I didn't physically see him have sex with any of the girls. So I can't say who he had sex with in his whole life or not, but I just know it wasn't with me when I was with the other girls. And who were the other girls that you were with in Donald Trump's presence? None. There. I worked for Donald Trump, and I've met him probably a few times. When have you met him? At Mar-a-Lago. My dad and him, I wouldn't say they were friends, but my dad knew him, and they would talk all the time. Well, not all the time, but when they saw each other. Have you ever been in Donald Trump, Jeffrey Epstein's presence with one another? No. What is the basis for your statement that Donald Trump is a good friend of Jeffrey's? Giuffre told me that Donald Trump is a good friend of his. But you never observed them together. No, not that I can actually remember. I mean, not off the top of my head, no. When did Donald Trump flirt with you? He didn't. That's what's inaccurate. Did you ever see Donald Trump at Giuffre's home? Not that I can remember. On his island? No, not that I can remember. In New Mexico? No, not that I can remember. In New York? Not that I can remember. All right. So let's review what we just unpacked. This reporter, when she reports on Virginia Giuffre's situation, makes a point out of mentioning Donald Trump. And yet, as the lawyer's talking to Giuffre, it starts as, well, I think she might have mischaracterized what I said. You know, accidents happen. I didn't want to go back and correct the record, blah, blah, blah. But when you dissect what the reporter had said about Donald Trump, that he was a good friend to Jeffrey Epstein, that he had not participated that she was aware of, but that he had flirted with her and that he had said, oh, Jeffrey, you got the life, right? So as this is all broken down, none of that's true. And the only reason that she says that Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein were friends was because Jeffrey Epstein told her that. So everything else about that is made up. And that is a huge problem, because while they're making this up and trying to insert Trump into a situation where, I'm sorry, but it's looking more and more like he is not on the inside of this. And people can get angry if they want to, but it looks like of all the people whose names are coming up in this, he looks to be the least involved. And he was a huge name in Palm Beach. So it's just like almost impossible that the two of them would not have had a run-in. But outside of that, everything keeps coming back over and over. And yet we're not talking about Bill Clinton is on the island, confirmed, with girls. It's a problem. And you guys know me. I went through the video with Trump and Epstein and Maxwell together. I'm going to go through all this information as it comes to me, but that's just my honest appraisal of the situation. So that being said, let's just move on from that and what comes next. At one point, she's asked to name names. George Mitchell. We already knew Jean-Luc Brunel. We already knew Bill Richardson. And a prince that she doesn't know his name. A guy that owns a hotel, a really large hotel chain. And Marvin Minsky. Where did you go to have sex with Marvin Minsky? I believe it was the U.S. Virgin Islands. Jeffrey Epstein's island in the U.S. Virgin Islands. And when was that? I don't know. Do you have any time of the year? No. Do you know how old you were? No. Other than Glenn Dubin, Stephen Kaufman, Prince Andrew, Jean-Luc Brunel, Bill Richardson, another prince, the large hotel chain owner, and Marvin Minsky. Took a snapshot of this because Virginia Giuffre says, but when I was traveling with Jeffrey, the majority of the time would be on the black jet. Now, I don't know about you guys, but they've shown me pictures in the news media of airplanes as they threw Lolita Express across the news media wires, but not once have they shown me a black jet. I find that interesting. Where is that jet now? The lawyer then goes on to ask her to just name some names of famous people that were around. Not that these names would implicate anybody directly. And she was very sure to go out of her way to say that these names did not implicate people. And she did name the names. Here they are. Naomi Campbell, Heidi Klum, Bill Clinton, Al Gore. There was a whole bunch of models. I wouldn't really honestly be able to give their names. There was Matt Groening. Interesting. So the creator of The Simpsons, that show that loves predictive programming. It was frustrating enough hearing that the FBI had sat on this since 2011, but this only gets worse. Okay, well, let's back up before we get to those conversations and tell me approximately when it was that you were contacted by the person who you believe was with the FBI. Okay, it's hard for me to pinpoint. If I had to pinpoint it, it would be in 2007. So let's talk about the FBI contacting Giuffre and then Epstein contacting her just after. Like a week, it was back to each other. I remember being so scared after talking to the FBI thinking, what's happening? What's going on? It's been like 6 years, 7 years at that stage. How did they find me? And what do I have to do with this? So yeah, do I remember that very well? And it was only about a week later I was called by his attorney. Who was it that contacted you? Do you remember? I want to say Bill Riley, but he might have been from the FBI. No, it was Bill Riley. Bill Riley. Not sure if that's his correct name, but that's what is coming to mind. What do you remember about this conversation? I remember a Mr. Goldberger as well. I remember there might have been two of them. So I would hope that Mr. Bill Riley at the FBI and whoever this Mr. Goldberger is, they should answer some questions. Do you have any recollection of Jeffrey Epstein specifically telling you that Bill Clinton owes me favors? Yes, I do. It was a laugh, though. He would laugh it off. You know, I remember asking Jeffrey, what's Bill Clinton doing here kind of thing? And he's laughed it off and said, well, he owes me a favor. He never told me what favors they were. I never knew. I didn't know if he was serious. It was just a joke. He told me a long time ago that everyone owes him favors. They are all in each other's pockets. Right? Mutually assured destruction. This is what we've been noticing among the elite. This is why they're so easily controllable. When you say you asked him, why is Bill Clinton here? Well, where was here? On the island. When you were present with Jeffrey Epstein and Bill Clinton on the island, who else was there? Ghislaine, Emmy, and there was two young girls that I could identify. I never really knew them well anyways. It was just two girls from New York. And were all of you staying at Jeffrey's house on the island, including Bill Clinton? That's correct. He had about 4 or 5 different villas on his island, separate from the main house, and we all stayed in the villas. Were sexual orgies a regular occurrence on the island at Jeffrey's house? Yes. So, to sum everything up, I'm kind of scattered throughout this episode. I'm suspect of the whole incorrect redaction at the beginning of this. I find it strange that the Epstein jet the Lolita Express was black, and so was the helicopter that he bought Ghislaine Maxwell. I found it interesting the amount of mischaracterizations done in between Virginia Giuffre and the reporter, Sharon Churcher. And finally, we got some names, and we got some information to go on. Everybody in the Anon community, I'm sure, is now going to be digging into French hotel chain owners, and it will only be a matter of time if it's not already been figured out. I'm sure it has. And so we got some names, nothing really big. And we got the actual testimony that Bill Clinton was on Epstein Island. And while most news media outlets will make the point that Virginia Giuffre never makes any kind of direct accusations against Clinton, what they ignore is that she says that massive orgies were the norm there, and that he went there and they stayed in separate bungalows, but there were 2 other girls that were there with them. They just ignore that. So that is revealed in the testimony, and that's about everything I've come to yet, and I'm still going through these documents, and there's going to be more documents released over the next couple of days, so it's going to be a lot of information. Stick with me. I'm going to roll with it. But when I look at this first release, there's only one docket that comes to mind, and that's Dershowitz's petition to gain access to those documents that the Judge Preska ordered destroyed before the documents were ordered to be released. I think Dershowitz found out about these documents, that the law office was in possession of them, and I think he filed a suit that the judge said was more like a carpet bombing than a surgical strike, and I think he did it because it was going to bring light to that evidence. That was the evidence he wanted excluded. It was the evidence he wanted destroyed, and the way he got rid of it was by requesting access to it, and the judge finding out that the Virginia Giuffre's lawyers were in possession of it and it being destroyed. And I might sound crazy, but I do not doubt for 1 second that could have been why Dershowitz did this entire motion. But that evidence was destroyed before anybody started talking about these unsealings. That was the only evidence Dershowitz really cared about. Anyways, guys, like, share, sub the channel. As I get information, I'll give it out. Thanks for the support, everybody that shares and appreciates my work. I appreciate you guys. I'll talk to y'all later. As usual, all the links will be in the comments section, guys. Later.